What is going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics. Today, we have a public service announcement because this poster just talked about how a couple of their comic books were pretty severely damaged, and it was by the way that they were storing them. This is something I've mentioned in passing before that you shouldn't do this, but I hear people comment that this is how they store their books, and you might want to go check your books because I have seen this happen more than you might like to know. And I mean, posts about this have gone back as far as about 20 years. So this is something that's well known. You should not store your books like this. It can cause severe damage. It doesn't have anything to do with the CGC cases. That is not what's causing it. So just because CGC is on there, I just want to make sure this isn't like a CGC hate video or anything like that. This is how the books are, where the books are being stored. So here's the post here. It says, "Oh my God, I read a post about not leaving your comics in a safe. Because basically they can have rust on the staples. I'm going to bring mine into the local comics guy to see what he can do, or reach out to Lunch Money Comics because I saw a video where he knows a guy basically did something about rusty staples or replacing staples. But this sucks. These books are graded and signed." And so you can see here what he's got is an Amazing Spider-Man 300 first full appearance of Venom 7.5 signed by Stan Lee. And so we can see, in the comments here, what is it about a safe specifically that would cause this to happen? We'll get into that briefly because there are some speculations on what causes this. This person says safes are notorious for humidity. I have a gun safe and a dehumidifier, and monitoring humidity are a must to prevent rust. Same with documents and paper. And I'll say I keep a dehumidifier around my comics. That's what I do for mine. I know some people use those like silica beads and that kind of thing. But I use a dehumidifier. I make sure that it's as dry as it can be, I guess, at least within reason around the comics. This says best not to use an ordinary safe in general. I think you may be focusing on the wrong thing. You have a 7.5 ASM 300 signed by Stan Lee. You're already winning. But that's the thing here. This is not a 7.5 anymore. I can guarantee you that this is not a 7.5 anymore. And he has a second post, and we'll get into that second post because that's where you get a much better picture of the damage. Here, we can kind of see, like you can see it's pretty bad. Like if you can see right there, that is some pretty severe staple rust. That is rust that you would see on a book maybe that's like 60 or 70 years old. And that's if it was stored poorly. This is a book that was, probably, I'm guessing this book is, we know how old the book is. Like the book is from 1988. So we know the book is only, 37 years? I think that's right. 37 years old, but has only probably been in that safe for a pretty short period of time. Maybe a year, 2 years. And it got that extreme rust on the staple. And now I'm speculating how long it's been there. I don't know, but I'll tell you why I think it might be a pretty short time period. We keep going through the comments. Somebody actually gave this post on the CGC forums. And so we're going to go over there because this tells you how long we've really known about this. This forum post is from 2006. This is 19 years ago. This forum post can almost drink. And they're talking about this important information about storing comic books in fireproof/resistant safes. Now, in this post, they're specifically talking about certain types of safes. And so they're speculating that it could either be because of the chemicals that are used to keep some of these safes fireproof or fire resistant. And that could actually contribute to the rusting on those staples. It's not completely sure on if that's the case or if it's just the fact that the safes in general attract moisture, hold in moisture, are more likely to cause those metal items to rust. Now, some people talk about that they have guns and things and that those aren't rusting, and other people are saying, well, people are generally regularly oiling their guns, whereas you're not oiling the staples on your comic books and that kind of stuff. So there's lots of thoughts on this, but in general, it seems storing your comic books in a airtight metal box is not the way to go. If you are going to do that, at a minimum, you need to put some type of silica, water absorption materials inside of there to help prevent it. But in general, I would just say that's not where you should be storing. For example, we know that a lot of people store their comics, like high value comics, in safety deposit boxes at banks. And I have never heard of somebody and maybe it's happened, somebody in the comments, let me know, but I've never heard of somebody saying that they've had a problem with their books stored in the safety deposit boxes at banks having rust develop on the staples. And I know a lot of people that do that. And so I think that this is more likely that it's something related to the safe. Maybe the fact that the safes are more often in basements. Maybe there, so there's more water down there, just more moisture in general, all of that leading to this rust. Now, we're going to jump over to his other post. So here's his other post that he did, and it says, Rusted Comics Update. Just spoke to my local comic book guy from Universal Comics in Studio City. He says he knows a guy that can help, or worst case, maybe we can do something with CGC, which will be at WonderCon this weekend. I know it's not the end of the world because recently saw a video on YouTube from Lunch Money Comics where a guy he knows restores, cleans, presses books. He also has him removing staples and getting them cleaned as well. Maybe that's the route. Hopefully it won't be deemed a major restoration with CGC. I was hoping to post these wonderful books up slowly, but I guess I'll post them all up so you can see the damage. So he also had an Amazing Spider-Man 238, first appearance of the Hobgoblin. And here you can see, I mean, that is a lot of rust. Let's see if he's got a closer one. I mean, look at that. That is an extremely rusted staple, like getting to the point where you just wonder if that staple is almost going to disappear. Then he's got an Ultimate Spider-Man #1, which, I mean, a much more modern book, only from the year 2000. And you can see the rust starting up on that one. It's not nearly at the level. Maybe it hasn't been in there quite as long. Maybe the staples are made out of slightly different material, aren't rusting quite as much. Then you've got that Amazing Spider-Man 300 that we already saw. And here's that, extremely rusted staple on that book. And yeah, there's the same, the staple on the bottom as well, being very rusted. So, I mean, obviously it really sucks. It sucks to see the damage to those books. I mean, you've got Amazing Spider-Man 300 signed by Stan Lee. What was it? A 7.5. We'll kind of go down and just touch on the value of that book. So let's see if we can find a Stan Lee only. So signed by Stan Lee, about a $700 book right now. Then an ASM 238 unsigned. I think his was a 9.4. Let's see. Let's look at ASM 238. And then we'll turn off the signature stuff so we don't have to scroll quite as much. And so we go down to a 9.4, and that's, recent sales around $385. So those two books alone, about $1,000 in value, and they absolutely would not retain these grades. The 9.4 is going to fall probably pretty significantly with that amount of rust. I mean, you can have rusty staples in high grades, but usually it's relatively small amounts of rust or little bits of surface rust. This is pretty significant. I don't really know what it would fall to. It's such a unique case having a rusty staple like this on such a nice book. I mean, I would guess it might fall down to like a 7, somewhere around there. I mean, if somebody wants to chime in the comments, I mean, I know some people they wouldn't buy it at all. Like it's definitely going to hurt your market for the book, but I wouldn't be surprised if it fell down somewhere like a 7. And then the 7.5 already a little lower, but that one, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a hit down to maybe like a 6 or something like that. And so, because they're nice books, the lower the grade, the less it's going to impact it. But again, it's really going to impact people who are going to buy it. Now, I think you as the owner of those books, if you're going to sell them, you kind of have a responsibility to resubmit the book. Because to me, this is damage that the book has received after grading. And so I think if you're going to sell it, you have a responsibility to resubmit that book and get the new grade for it, whatever that might be. You could the cheapest way to do it would just be to send it in as a reholder, since they are regrading them, when they're being reholdered, and then they'll regrade the book. You won't have to pay for the full new regrading and everything like that. It'll be a little bit cheaper. That's probably how I would go about doing it. So send it in as a reholder, and you just get the grade you're going to get. The main point of this video here, do not store your comics in fireproof safes, or probably just like airtight-ish type safes in general. If you are going to, be very, very careful about humidity, whether you have a dehumidifier around or some type of desiccant or whatever to absorb the water. But yeah, try to find a different place to store your books. Don't store them in a safe, especially not a safe like in a basement or something. But hopefully this helps some of you. If you are storing them there, take them out of there, find a new place to do it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.